In the 1980s, a new empire rose in the east, not of land but of silicon. Japan's semiconductor industry dominated the world. Companies like NEC, Toshiba, and Hitachi became global giants. By the late 1980s, Japan controlled over half the global semiconductor market. Even the United States, where the microchip was born, trailed behind. The world's technology, cars, computers, gadgets, ran on Japanese chips. Tokyo buzzed with energy and pride. Factories were marvels of automation and efficiency. The Japanese way, precision, quality, discipline, set the global standard. After World War II, Japan had rebuilt itself into an economic superpower. Semiconductors became the crown jewel of its rebirth. The world looked to Japan for the next big thing in tech. Memory chips, processors, the engines of the digital revolution, they were Japanese. It was a golden age, with Japan at the center of the modern world. The position seemed unbreakable, but even empires built on silicon can be fragile. The sun was shining bright over Japan's future, but change was coming. Then, the empire began to crumble. What once seemed unshakable started to show cracks almost overnight. Japan's market share slipped from over 50% to 40%, then 20%, and by the 2010s, just 10%. The numbers told a story of relentless decline year after year as competitors surged ahead. The leader became a follower. Once at the forefront of innovation, Japanese companies now watched as others set the pace. New giants emerged: Samsung in South Korea, TSMC in Taiwan. These companies didn't just catch up, they redefined the industry's future. They built the world's most advanced chips, pushing the boundaries of what technology could achieve and setting new global standards. Japanese technology was no longer at the heart of smartphones and supercomputers. The devices powering the modern world now relied on foreign innovation. The buzz in Tokyo faded to concern. Boardrooms once filled with optimism now echoed with uncertainty and doubt. How did such dominance vanish? How could a nation that once led the world fall so far, so fast? The contrast was stark, from heroes of the digital age to being left behind. The energy of the boom years seemed like a distant memory. Japan still excelled in materials and equipment, but not in the most advanced chips. Their expertise remained, but the spotlight had shifted elsewhere. The decline was a national trauma, a blow to Japan's identity. It was more than economics, it was a loss of pride, a wound that ran deep. The world stopped looking to Japan for the next big thing. The innovation spotlight moved elsewhere, leaving Japan in the shadows. The energy and confidence of the 1980s were gone. Streets that once buzzed with ambition now felt subdued, almost nostalgic for a lost era. The great Japanese chip machine had ground to a halt. Production lines that once symbolized progress now stood silent, gathering dust. The sun was setting on Japan's Silicon Empire. The golden age of Japanese technology was ending, and a new era was dawning elsewhere. The once bright promise faded into stagnation. Hopes for a resurgence seemed to dim with each passing year. The giants of the past became shadows. The world moved on, and Japan's role in the story of technology was rewritten. Japan's leadership in semiconductors was lost. Once a beacon of progress, it now struggled to find its place in a rapidly changing world. The question, could it ever return? Was there a path back to greatness, or was this the end of the road? For a long time no one knew how. The silence was heavy, but hope, though faint, was not entirely lost. Two powerful forces brought down Japan's once mighty chip empire, reshaping the global semiconductor landscape forever. The first force came from the United States. Alarmed by Japan's rapid rise and dominance in the chip market, the US government took action. American officials, worried about losing their technological edge, pressured Japan to open its markets, reduce trade barriers, and limit exports of semiconductors. The 1986 US-Japan Semiconductor Trade Agreement was a turning point. It forced Japanese companies to change their strategies and accept foreign competition. The deal created uncertainty and tension, sending a clear message: America would not let its key industry slip away without a fight. For Japan, the rules of the game had changed overnight. The country's business leaders were caught off guard, forced to rethink their approach in a world that suddenly felt less predictable. The second force was internal, rooted in Japan's own business model and corporate culture. Japanese companies were vertically integrated. They designed, built, and used their own chips, controlling every step of the process. This approach worked brilliantly when Japan led the world in technology and innovation. But the industry was shifting to a new model, the foundry model, pioneered by TSMC in Taiwan. In this system, one company specializes in designing chips while another focuses on manufacturing them. This separation allowed for greater flexibility and efficiency. Specialization fueled rapid innovation and speed. Companies that embraced this model could adapt quickly to changing technology and customer needs. But Japanese firms stuck to their old ways. focusing on their own products and internal projects, reluctant to open up or collaborate. As a result, they missed the global foundry revolution. The old vertically integrated model, once a strength, became a weakness, too slow, too rigid, and unable to keep up with the pace of change. As the world changed, Japan didn't adapt. The strategic mistake cost them their lead. The industry moved on without them, and new players took center stage. Japan's chip giants were left behind. The world's new leaders embraced change, collaboration, and specialization. Japan's reluctance to adapt sealed its decline, turning former champions into bystanders. The lesson is clear: adapt or be left behind. In technology, standing still is the fastest way to fall. The years that followed were difficult. Japan's semiconductor industry entered a long winter. While the world raced into mobile computing and the internet, Japan lagged. Companies merged and restructured, but never regained their edge. They became ghosts in the machine they helped create. The most advanced chips were now designed in America, made in Taiwan and South Korea. Japan found a niche in less advanced components, but the glory days were over. The dream of global leadership faded. Young engineers no longer aspired to join chip companies. The industry lost its glamour and purpose. Profits shrank, investment in R&D dwindled, and Japan fell further behind. The cycle of decline seemed unbreakable. The world's digital infrastructure was built with non-Japanese technology. For a nation of engineers, this was a hard truth. The empire was gone, only memories remained. Then in 2020, something unexpected happened. A phone call from IBM to Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. The world was in crisis. Supply chains were breaking. The fragility of the global chip supply was exposed. IBM, a leader in research, was developing the next generation, the 2-nanometer chip. But IBM needed a manufacturing partner. They looked to Japan, a country with a legacy of manufacturing excellence. The call was a spark in the dark. For years, Japan had watched from the sidelines. Now it was being invited back to the starting line. The proposal, a new partnership, combining American research with Japanese manufacturing, it was a chance to leapfrog the competition. The idea electrified Japan's government and industry. Could Japan make a comeback in the world's toughest industry? The call was more than business. It was a challenge and a vote of confidence. The long winter was ending. A seed had been planted. Japan had a new opportunity. The world was watching. The comeback could begin. That spark ignited a fire fueled by urgency, ambition, and a sense of national pride that had been dormant for decades. Japan decided to act boldly, refusing to let its technological legacy fade quietly into history. The government and industry giants Toyota, Sony, NEC, NTT, SoftBank joined forces, forming an unprecedented alliance between public and private sectors. In August 2022, they launched Rapidus, a company born from collaboration and a shared vision for the future. The name means swift, a signal of urgency and ambition, a promise to move faster than ever before. Rapidus was not just a company, but a national project, an embodiment of Japan's determination to reclaim its place at the forefront of technology. Billions in government support and private investment followed, signaling a level of commitment rarely seen in Japan's recent history. The mission was clear and audacious: mass-produce the world's most advanced 2-nanometer chips by 2027, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in semiconductor technology. At the time, even TSMC and Samsung, global leaders in the field, were just beginning to ramp up production of 3-nanometer chips. Japan aimed to leap from years behind to the very front of the line, determined to close the gap and set a new standard. Rapidus was a message to the world. Japan was back, and it was ready to compete on the global stage once again. The plan was ambitious: partner with IBM for cutting-edge technology, build a state-of-the-art fabrication plant in Japan, and fully embrace the foundry model to serve a global market. This was Japan learning from past mistakes, determined not to repeat the errors that led to its decline in the chip industry decades ago. Rapidus would serve global customers, not just domestic needs, signaling a new outward-looking approach for Japanese industry. It was a new strategy for a new era, one that embraced innovation, speed, and international collaboration. The Titan was awake and ready to run. The world took notice, watching closely as Japan prepared for its comeback. Japan was serious about reclaiming its place. The comeback was real. The stakes were enormous. The countdown had begun. Could Rapidus deliver on its promise and change the course of history? Producing 2-nanometer chips is more than a business plan. It's a national dream and a massive gamble. A 2-nanometer chip is unimaginably small and complex. Building a factory for them costs tens of billions. There's no guarantee of success. The Japanese government sees this as an investment in the future. Advanced semiconductors are today's oil, essential for prosperity and security. Japan refuses to be vulnerable. The plan centers on Hokkaido, where Rapidus is building its first fab, IOM-1. The location offers water and stable energy, crucial for chip making. Construction is a race against time. Rapidus must build, equip, and perfect its process faster than ever before. The pressure is immense, the nation is watching. This is Japan's moonshot. It's about more than market share, it's about proving Japan can still lead. If Rapidus succeeds, it's a victory for the nation. The comeback story could be complete, but the hardest part is still ahead. Rapidus is entering an arena dominated by giants, TSMC and Samsung. These companies have decades of experience, deep customer ties, and massive resources. Rapidus is the underdog, starting almost from zero in advanced logic chips. The goal do in 5 years what others took decades to build. Many experts are skeptical. The race is about more than technology, it's about talent. Japan must train and attract thousands of skilled engineers. TSMC and Samsung are also hiring, building new factories worldwide. It's a global war for talent, every day is a test. The 2027 deadline looms. TSMC and Samsung are already planning their own 2-nanometer production. For Rapidus, there's no room for error. The stakes are high. It's a classic challenger versus champion story. Daring ambition against dominant power. The world is watching. Can the underdog win? The outcome will shape the future. We stand at a moment of suspense. Japan's semiconductor story has come full circle, from dominance to decline to a bold comeback. Will Rapidus succeed and spark a new sunrise? If so, it will be one of technology's greatest comebacks. If not, Japan may remain a secondary player. The stakes are national pride, economic security, and global influence. The world is watching, the race is on. Japan has placed its bet. Will the sun rise again on the empire of Silicon?